7 lively arts, 1 lively artist, Franco ZEFFIRELLI. If the name doesn't immediately strike you, he directed the movie Romeo and Juliet and the television production of The Life of Jesus, and plays like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and operas like Aida and Othello have had at one time or another the imprint of his direction or staging or costume design. He's Italian, but he works in Paris, New York, Stratford-on-Avon, and recently in Seacliff, Long Island. Wherever he is, he speaks the language. But the language he speaks best is a universal language, and he speaks it to audiences all over the world. If any place more specific than the world is home to Franco ZEFFIRELLI, it is the one of his 3 houses, which is on the outskirts of Rome. We found him there, and feeling mildly one-upped by his list of credits, asked him, in effect, what makes Franco run?
Well, if I were a woman, I would have been constantly pregnant all my life, because I'm incapable to say no to anything or to anybody. I've been attracted by all kinds of activities and experiences since my childhood. I came out of a disaster, Italy was in total shambles midway after the war in my very early years. And I began to look for jobs, for work, for communication.
He started as an actor, but found his talent was greater in working with actors rather than being one. Unlike some directors, he likes actors.
I have a tremendous respect for actors. I mean, there won't be any theater or cinema for that if they were an actor. There will be a theater without directors, probably. Actually, the theater was born without directors, was born with actors. So actors are really the pillar. I have always worshipped them. I've always given them the feeling that I wouldn't exist without them. I really feel that you cannot achieve anything in movies or in theaters or in opera unless you bring out that magic coincidence between the human nature of an actor and the character he has to play, or she has to play.
One of the things ZEFFIRELLI can do, out of his exultant embrace of life, is to work well with people other directors might find temperamental. Take his first movie, The Taming of the Shrew, 1965, with Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. Note how he brought the spectacle and larger-than-life texture of opera to Shakespeare and made it work.
Caterina, wilt thou take Petruchio to be thy lawful wedded husband?
ZEFFIRELLI sees things mostly as a painter would. Whether he's producing an opera or photographing a movie or designing a costume, the medium appears to his questing eyes as a canvas. And he likes full canvases. Like a painter, he gives attention to detail, to every figure, every spot of color.
If somebody demanded of you tomorrow, either movies or opera, not both.
That's a cruel decision. So when I'm through with the news, when a film, I'm longing to go back to opera. When I've done an opera, I love to make a film. It's like I told you, I think, like being a sultan with several wives. When you go to bed with one, he says, she's the best. Then you say, well, let's try the other one. And she's very good, too. And you cannot make up your mind which one of your wives is the best. I feel a bit like that.
Did you ever want to be an opera singer?
I would give my right arm to be a singer, to be capable of producing that kind of sound in front of thousands of people. That, I think, must be the most exciting power that man can be given. Like this music? My God. Thank
And he likes to cook and socialize and clown. He thinks he learns from his friends, from a kind of extended family that he likes to keep around at places like this house. This is Trevillet, his summer house, hanging from a cliff south of Naples. In a way, each of his houses is a stage set designed by Zeffirelli. Here he likes to show off his collection of art and furniture.
You know, I began to collect things connected with the sea. For instance, this Madonna has been done by some recluse, some prisoner in the late 18th century.
A year or so ago, a book came out in America called Endless Love, a strange but interesting story of a young man who wanted to possess a young girl completely and was very disorganized about how to do it. It attracted Franco. He had it adapted into a movie script. In July, he went off to New York to cast it.
How do you get the hundreds of people coming to you, or do you find them?
Well, you know, kids of this age very seldom have agents or managers. Very often they have mothers who work as agents. So in these cases, I did it for Romeo and Juliet too, for Brother Francis the Moon. I do open calls. Open calls.
Put an ad in the paper, or you put
We
it
put
up?
an ad in the paper. We go in various cities. I mean, we're combed all America.
How many people will you have looked at?
Oh, only Los Angeles the other day was 780 one day.
You looked at them all?
I wanted to, because suddenly, in this crowd of people that come there, attracted by the illusion of, you know, Kingston City or a career in the movie, comes out somebody who's extraordinary. I mean, it's terrible, you know, to have to see hundreds and hundreds of kids. Most of them are not at all, you know, what you look for. But it's the only way to give to these unknown kids a chance.
I'll find her. If they're going to let me out of here, I'll find her again. I don't care where she is.
I was disgusted. I was sick to my stomach. He made me puke just like you do. Son of a bitch.
Zeffirelli had a problem. For the boy, he wanted an actor who could justify his, Franco's, conclusion that this character, this nut, who burns down houses and goes to a mental hospital, is somehow basically lovable. None of these actors got the part.
You got a pretty good idea of who's going to play David?
Well, I found it quite extraordinary. You know, David is the most important role. He's the reason to make the film, because he's the boy, he's the story of the boy, and he is on the screen practically from the beginning to the end.
Can I see him?
Yes. It's quite a remarkable kid, but I'm afraid there are many in America.
I don't want you to see her for, let's say, 30 days. What is this? Let me talk to Jane. I just told you.
He found Martin Hewitt. Hewitt had been a parking lot attendant and a car washer in Los Angeles. Hewitt fits one of Zeffirelli's trademarks. Like the lovers in Romeo and Juliet, he is a fresh talent with no professional experience.
It is not fair. You've got no right to pull this.
You pick up an unknown kid like this one, who is only full of hopes and potential, and you give him a chance, then you really, your hand becomes almost the hand of God. You said, now your life is no longer going to be this, but becomes another thing. That's what makes my days in this moment very, very tense.
Get out of here right now. I want you off this spot. I'm not going. I'm going to kick your ass. I'm not going.
6 weeks after his screen test, Martin Hewitt was in the movie, but not in tinsel Hollywood. Martin was playing David Axelrod, the love-obsessed teenager who sets fire to his girl's house and ends up committed to an insane asylum.
You're trying to make me think I'm insane.
My heart beats fast when I think about the story of this boy. I really identify with him. I pulsate with him. I get excited with his own passion and fury, burning fury, all of fire that consumes everything around him. It's an extraordinary character. It's a Greek classical story, I think. What a difficult life to be an actor.
Zeffirelli has no noticeable objection to getting along with the people who put up the money. Perhaps a reason he selected Brooke Shields to play the girl in Endless Love. She's a major current box office draw, which Martin Hewitt isn't yet.
The next setup is...
And Zeffirelli likes the warmth and explicit sexuality in his films. He thinks people have had a distorted view of sex.
Sex has become an instrument of Satan instead of being what it was created for, an act of love and a generous gift from God. So I think I'd like to recapture that value in sex, even in this wretched planet of cinema where, you know, sex has always been used to bring more audience to see your work and make more money out of it. I think I'd like to really wash the board and start from scratch and say, what's wrong in seeing a boy of 15 and a girl of 15 having sex on the screen? What's wrong with it?
Well, some people would see something wrong with it. And some people would see things wrong with Zeffirelli's touching and kissing of his actors and his friends. Although that is at least partly just Italian. And some people would question Zeffirelli's ability to spread himself so widely, if not so thin. But it is hard to question his perception of himself. If he is the computerized Renaissance man, he is beautifully programmed. And his determination to accept, not only to accept, to embrace life, becomes not only believable, but likable.
We don't see much of Martin Hewitt these days, but you may have recognized another young man auditioning for Endless Love, Tom Cruise. Franco ZEFFIRELLI, at age 74, still directs one opera a season and a film every few years. He adapted another Shakespeare drama, Hamlet, into a film with Mel Gibson in 1990. And his film Jane Eyre was released in 1996. ZEFFIRELLI has also found success in another art lately, politics. He was elected to the Italian Senate in 1994 and currently is serving his second term.
A couple of years ago, a Swiss television producer named Daniel Schmidt made a film called Tosca's Kiss. It was about a home in Italy for retired musicians and singers called the Casa Verdi. We saw it, liked it, bought it. Before we broadcast it, we went to Milan to take a look for ourselves and make a few shots of our own. Well, like Top Beat, those few shots grew and grew and grew into our own story, which we called Curtain Call.
It is the Casa Verdi, the house Giuseppe Verdi built. He did not build it for himself. He built it as a retirement home for others. It is a unique legacy.
Verdi wanted to give back something to the older singers and musicians, the people who helped him achieve his greatness. A haven, a place of rest for them and for future generations who would follow them onto the stage of Italian grand opera. And to pay for it, he willed to this house the royalties to all his operas, by any standard, a vast fortune. The house would be available to prima donnas who had fallen on hard times and to members of the chorus who never made it. Verdi died just before the house opened.
Such was Italy's affection for him that as he lay dying, the streets of Milan were laid with straw to muffle the sound of horses' hooves. Though he asked for the most simple of funerals, all of Milan turned up. First one voice, then another, then 200,000 voices sang his Va Pensiero. And today, in Casa Verdi, it is sung with the same affection. Verdi refused to allow the house to open until his death because he did not want the embarrassment of the artist's gratitude.
If heaven is the living memory of those who've touched us, then Giuseppe Verdi will live forever, right here, in the house that Verdi built.
There is barely a moment of silence here. The air is filled with music and song of old favorites being performed by old favorites. There is room for 100 guests in Casa Verdi. If they are destitute, they pay nothing. If not, they pay what they can afford. The opera royalties ran out in the 60s, so now benefactors like Luciano Pavarotti and the Metropolitan Opera Company help to keep the house going. The only qualification is to have once been recognized as a genuine performer. Some of them are infirm, do not often leave their rooms. Others need no invitation to perform. Leonida Bellon, tenor, age 81. Irma Colasanti, mezzo-soprano, age 70. Salvatore Lo Capo, pushing 70, the scourge of the Casa Verdi corridors. Professor Giovanni Erminio Puligedu, composer and conductor, age 86. Like the others, every notice, every poster is cherished. Their lives were and will always be music. Giuseppe Monachini, baritone, age 83, sang at La Scala with the great tenor Beniamino Gigli, but he remembers no greater Rigoletto than himself. No greater baritone. Not a boast, he reminds us, just a simple fact. The most famous of current residents is the legendary soprano Sara Scuderi, once the toast of La Scala. Scuderi is now 86, considers herself the last of the romantics, and says she owes her very life to Verdi. From time to time, she says, he smiles back at her. It is not all remembrance of opera's past. The future creeps into Casa Verdi, seeking the wisdom, the special ear. They come from halfway around the world to soak it up. Giuseppe Verdi gave more than even he knew he was giving. What a wonderful thing for a man to do with his wealth and the future wealth his talent would bring. Never mind the adoration and the glory that the audiences might give the performers, Verdi would reward them in a more practical way. And by helping the people who made his music live, his music becomes truly immortal. The years may have damaged the vocal cords, they have done nothing to diminish the spirit. The great maestro is never far from its sound, entombed and enshrined in the Casa Verdi courtyard. There is a wonderful spontaneity to life in the corridors of Casa Verdi. No, it is not Superman, it is Salvatore La Capo, emerging from the phone booth to confront
Tosca! 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 Finalmente via! Aiuto! Voglio! Voglio! Aiuto!
Questo è il bacio di Tosca.
Muoio! Muoio! È morto! Oh, gli perdono! Davanti a lui tremava tutta Roma.
Giuseppe Verdi did wondrous things in his life, and in death he did more. He kept these happy few on the stage, gave them an afterlife of curtain calls. To an artist, and from an artist, there is no greater gift.
Casa Verdi will celebrate its 95th anniversary in October of 1997. Salvatore La Capo and Sarah Scuderi are no longer at the Casa, but there are others. Over 1,000 performers have retired to Casa Verdi, which until now has accepted only should ensure that the halls of Casa Verdi stay filled with the sound of music for a long time to come. 60 Minutes executive producer and creator Don Hewitt on Morley Safer's visit to Casa Verdi.
Morley saw a great piece that I think Italian television did on a retirement home for opera singers and said, I want to go there. I mean, this is Morley's niche. Morley Safer lives on stories like retirement homes for opera singers. And you go in there, and it's like an opera. I mean, you're almost, if you wrote it, nobody would believe it. And it's where Morley shines.